Well, hello and welcome back to this Tao Manifested Tarot. This is the tarot reading that is intended for serious tarot people. This is not your typical tarot reading. If you're anticipating such, you're going to be disappointed. We hit you with a hard dose of reality. What we do first, for starters, is eliminate as best we can the distractions, because our lives are full of distractions purposely, so that we don't pay attention to the game that is being played on us. If we're focused on all these other things, races, sexes, artificial wars, real wars, all this stuff, if we're paying time and attention to that, we're not paying attention to the real deal going on underneath. And what happens at that point, somewhere down the road, we find ourselves, human beings, being transformed into cyborgs. Not going to like the deal. So we are focused on reality. We're focused on the current political, sociological situations. But we use tarot, because tarot is the science of potential, meaning you have to do some work. Now, it doesn't mean necessarily physical work. It could be just making a decision. But it takes some effort. You can't sit passively by and expect it to come to you. Although it is my belief that life has a very strong element of fate. And I believe this because I've done astrology for over 50 years. I've seen what a chart can do for a newborn. You can tell a lot about their personality. You can talk about the high spots and low spots of their lives. You can't get tremendously specific, but you can spot the trends. Astrology is the science of cycles. It isn't satanic unless you want to make it such. And if you want to make it such, there's nothing I can do to stop you. But it's like knowing when is the weekend coming up. When here in the United States is Labor Day coming up, or Christmas, or they're cycles. They are the same every year. Well, with astrology, the cycles are not necessarily yearly. Some are daily. Some are every 100, 200 years. But it's understanding cycles. And we're going through right now, in fact, just really kind of wrapping up in the United States of America, our Pluto return, which is the reason why we're seeing everything tipped over end. On the other hand, tarot, which I've done for over 20 years, guess what? That's the science of potential. So we have to get you activated. So I minimize the distractions. 5 cards, a good, clear reading of the energy. You're not going to have to guess. It's not going to be a fog. You will see crystal clearly what the energy is, and then you see if it applies. Honestly, for most people, it won't. Same thing, by the way, with astrological readings or any other kind of reading. We got 8 billion people on the planet. We're not going to fit everybody. I don't care if you're a Capricorn or a Libra or an Aries or a Can. I don't care. It's not going to fit you. And some of the people who are not the sign mentioned have that sign in their chart somewhere, and they will be infected that way. So you don't know. So if you get 10 to 20% of people reacting to your tarot reading or your astrological reading, your numerological reading, you're doing great. But for those people who don't resonate with it, there's tomorrow, there's next week, next month. You're gonna match up with the frequencies. When you do, especially when it comes to tarot, remember, this is potential. You got to get off your ass and you got to do stuff. It's not magic. You add to the magic. In fact, you bring the magic to the equation. Let's begin. Middle card. It's the Oracle card. Sets the mood for the reading. Today it's building blocks. Interesting that we're talking about building blocks right now, because really, in essence, that's what we're doing right now. All around the world, we are looking at the foundation of civilization. The building blocks of civilization. And we're seeing how easily civilization can crumble right before your eyes. Poof, it disappears. What the hell happened? We acted a certain way yesterday. Why can't we do it today? Well, time for a change. So building blocks, what are you going to do to rebuild some part of your life? Numbers up in the upper right-hand corner, 2 and 8. 2 is a decision, 8 is materialization. 2 and 8 together equals a 10 or 1. Hence, the idea of building blocks. You are beginning, you are choosing to rebuild some area of your life. So let's get to it, shall we? We go all the way to the left. We begin with the 9 of Pentacles. I call this the mini Queen of Pentacles. 9 of Pentacles talks about stability, security, self-reliance. That's something we don't have anymore in society, because we depend on everything and everybody else. We've given our power away and our responsibility. That was the reason we gave the power away. Well, I don't have to worry about it. Let somebody else worry about it. What happens if the electric grid goes down? Can't even flush your toilet. Can't get water. How pleasant that going to be? What happens when you don't pay attention to your voting system and they can rig the numbers and they can put in whoever they want? How pleasant is it then? How pleasant is it when you are connected to a computer system that is controlled by half a dozen people? They can tell you what's true, what's not true. They make the shit up. Doesn't make any difference. Or they'll prevent you from telling the truth. How pleasant is that? Well, that's what's going on. And the reason it's going on is because it was convenient. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Bullshit. This is why in the 16 and 1700s, the people who were looking at our economy, people who were the early capitalists, which I believe always leads to fascism. Take a look at the world around you. But they were talking about how they disliked farmers. 16, 1700s, they disliked farmers. It was the business people in the cities who hated farmers, called them lazy. Why? Well, because farmers were independent. They grew their own food. They had their own home. They set their own hours. They didn't need the rich people in the cities. Didn't need them. So what did the rich people do? Same thing then that they're doing now. Call you lazy, call you stupid, call you whatever. We don't need you. You're not helping. You're not democratic. Their democracy is letting them be free, not letting you be free. So the 9 of Pentacles pushes that. That's part of her value system. Self-reliance. Next to her, we have the Knight of Pentacles. Knights are always bringing gifts. Pentacles, of course, are values. The Knight is a hard worker, realistic, consistent. Independence, self-reliance. That's really what we have to get to. We have to take the system and just tear it all down, make it smaller. We don't need a central bank, which is controlled by just a handful of rich people, the Fed. We don't need that. In fact, we fought it 3 different times, lost on the 3rd time back in 1913. But we fought it 2 times before and won. So when you begin to consolidate power, you always have your power taken away. Hence the idea of building blocks. Cosmic tinker toys. Your value system has to underline your self-reliance. We have a meme here today from Chief Luther Standing Bear. He is the chief of the Oglala Lakota tribe. He says, the elders were wise. They knew that a man's heart away from nature becomes hard. They knew that a lack of respect for growing, living things soon led to respect for humans as well. In other words, if we don't respect nature, we don't respect ourselves. And we're seeing that all the time. Let's make artificial meat. Let's make artificial chemicals. Let's make medicine based on oil, which is what it was, started by John D. Rockefeller so he could control the oil business. Let's make pharmaceutical fake drugs that don't cure you, don't heal you, don't do anything for you, make you sicker, keep you sick. Let's just keep that stuff around. Let's get away from nature. There are herbs that can heal you. You're working with nature. Let's just take our lawn and let's put poisons on them so they look a certain kind of green. Don't let anything grow. Oh, yeah, during the COVID thing, get out of the sun. Stay out of the sun. Of course, that's the source of vitamin D, and vitamin D is essential in helping to run your human health. But don't do that. Lakota had it right. The minute you get away from nature, you give up your humanity. And that leads us to the final two cards. The next one is the Three of Pentacles. Your value system needs to line up. Mind, body, spirit, line them up. Together, they work together like cylinders on an engine. And when they're all pulling together, that engine will run tremendously well. And finally, you got to make a decision. Two of Swords. You got to make a decision about changing your thinking. You got to make a decision about changing your life, about rebuilding your life. Remember building blocks? That's the whole idea. Rebuild your life. This is the opportunity. Everything's coming down. Everything's being torn down. This is the opportunity to put in the good stuff. It's time to play with cosmic tinker toys. Make your life better. Make yourself more self-reliant. Stand up for yourself. You're going to find it's a much better life. So the reading for today. Back again tomorrow with another Tarot Manifested reading. Between now and the next time we get together, peace and blessings.